Madeline, this morning I was going to show Shannon some of the graphics that I was working on for a little flyer we're going to do for called World Building. It's just kind of some fun little graphics.
I would love to watch.
But they're, what it is it's pretty small, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to start it at the universe level, okay, kind of showing just kind of a universe, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next one, I'm going to keep closing it just so I can kind of go in order. It's not really in order right now. It's going to be a world. So you go universe, world. So you're actually dealing with a single corporation here at this time. So the universe is all the different pieces. And there's tons and tons of different worlds out there. Okay. So after you go universe, world, the next thing you do is you go into locations. You start getting deeper into your world. So I'm going to show you. This is that little map that I was kind of cleaning up. Just so you're now into a map. You're in a location.
That's what we were working for the other day.
A geographic area. Yeah. Yep. So we go universe, world, location. Then the next thing you start dealing with is actually like populations and groups within those locations. So the next little one, it just kind of shows some people, but it kind of has them slightly categorized. So it's like groups and populations. So imagine purple being invoices, blue being expenses, red being deposits, yellow being customers, et cetera, et cetera. Like you have groups of different things, and then there's potentially unlimited within that group as far as how many different pieces you have. But once you actually start getting in beyond groups, the next level is actually objects, okay? And so basically, once you get past the groups, let's go here, you start getting into individual objects. So instead of just saying invoices, you're now saying invoice 12, invoice 600, invoice 700,057, but that invoice carries a whole bunch of information, just like, say, one of these people right here, this little green guy, he would carry a bunch of information. He's green, he's in the back, he's like, you start getting almost this other level, but this is the object level, okay? So PO number 14, invoice 27, customer number 457, whatever, like, that's how we name them.
Each, like the cups on your plate.
Correct. That's object level. That's the object level. Once you go beyond object level, we actually get into the data level. This was just a little graphic that kind of shows like a display of data. Like there's no way you could get that graphic unless you were actually plotting or doing data. So it's just kind of symbolizing the data level. Line items, histories, etc. Relationships, like it's the data level. Okay? So then beyond that, we go into one more, which is and I may not have this one done yet in the small one. This is actually the time and calendar. I'm still kind of working on this guy right here. Okay? But basically, when you get below data, you actually get into time, which breaks it down from years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds, like, and then you run it across that. So everything, your whole universe, then the world, then the location, then the groups, what are my different players or options or populations, and then what are my individuals, my objects, and what's the data that goes to those objects, and then how do I run that over time. So that's kind of like how we're planning on structuring this little flyer.
Your graphics will help.
To kind of help illustrate that little piece. So
the graphics will help. This is hard to get people, I mean, we're working in a world that still sees flat.
correct.
So trying to explain this, I mean, because even the concept of trying to explain the cloud to someone is that's beyond them. They have to have a certain level of trust, most of them.
Yeah, correct. I actually had an email just this morning from Steve. I hope you can meet Steve sometime. He's actually kind of the brainchild behind this whole program. Like, he's an entrepreneur, and he was one of the main presidents and owners of that the vehicle industry and stuff like this. So prior to me coming on board, he had created tons of spreadsheets. They were running the whole business on spreadsheet inventories, doing this kind of stuff, and then they did have Peachtree accounting is what they used for their accounting software. But everything was done on spreadsheets, kind of tracked through this stuff. So he's kind of a techie mind, and he loves new gadgets and new toys, but he has this entrepreneurial spirit. It's just amazing. So he's like, I wonder if we could do this and this. And like, so he would kind of just lay it out like what he wanted, almost a wish list. And then we would slowly just kind of start chipping away at that. well, I can handle that little piece,
Right.
or maybe this little piece, and then it's been kind of fun, but it's been mind expanding as far as like, wow, like look what you can do, and look what possibilities there are. And
Mark kept talking last night about the 5 gig. He says that's just so incredible. But when you start looking at the fact that the repetition that you have going, that you really are only storing minor data and it's repeating everywhere, I mean, it all makes sense. But you just don't think it's going to be that small.
so this is an older database, but I have a local one in here on my machine. I will show you that it's under 5 gig. Watch this, okay? We'll open up Windows Explorer.
I do believe you, Brandon.
No. I just want
Like
to.
I say, it just totally kind of blows
I just want to show you real quick. So this is local. This is to my computer. So I'll go C, and then I'll come in here, and I have to go Documents and Settings, All Users, Application, and we'll go to MySQL, and we'll go into the server. We actually are using 5.6 on our production servers, which is kind of the latest version. And so in the data folder, I have a bunch of different little things. But right here, if I actually hit Properties on this guy right here, this is just a small database, and I use this one locally. So what I do is I'll pull down a full copy, and then I tweak. But in the meantime, the real one's really running.
But I'm saying you have a full copy, that just kills me.
Behind
That
you.
just kills me, but that's
Like,
okay.
I know.
So you can see
Same
right here that it's, just, it's teeny. It literally is teeny. And then it has some interesting stuff. This might be kind of fun, and I don't know if you want to see this or not, but are you okay if I take you into the database for just a second?
I absolutely love
Okay.
this kind of stuff.
Okay, great.
I don't
So
like the surface stuff, I like the deep stuff.
we're going to go deep? Okay, so I've actually never really shown anybody any of these kind of things, but I want to show you just some small little pieces of the puzzle. We're going to go into a front-end GUI that basically will allow us to connect to it, okay?
Okay.
And we'll just kind of pull up the local copy and just kind of play with what we actually have going on.
And I did enough programming to know that this blows my mind out of the water. I was doing programming,
you know what?
old school programming.
I'm going to have to close this. I actually have to start a service.
I've never done any programming, so
I actually liked programming, but I hate to even say it, 'cause I'm young Brandon, I was doing programming, and then we had the key punch machine, so you'd go stand in line to feed your cards through, and we'd all cheer for anybody who got less than a page of error code. Are you kidding me? This is
I was talking to my children last night. I started on an Apple IIe in high school, and then a little bit of DOS after that, and then Windows 3.1.
See, and I love DOS. It was simplistic, so you went from after DOS to Windows 3.1.
Yep.
We all have our journeys, right?
Yeah. So basically what it's doing right now is it's just actually starting the MySQL server, because I don't usually have it running unless I'm doing code work, because it's actually it's a virtual server just on the laptop. So
You don't want that running in the background.
No, you
Slow
don't.
down.
So now we'll just kind of jump in there, and one of the things that's coming in the future is instead of even having a 5 gig database, what if we actually said, you know what, we could make this thing even run faster. What if I had each company had their own database and could potentially grow it in like almost their own little miniature universe? Like instead of the Atlas universe being, you know how I just showed you those graphics? This is just futuristic. But Atlas currently has the upper umbrella on that thing, and then there's worlds and different things. But what if you actually said, what if we actually allowed each virtual entity to almost be whatever size umbrella it wanted to be? We made the analogy of a plate and pancakes. Do you have a plate with one pancake, or do you have a plate with 4, 5, 6, 7 hundreds, multiples? It's kind of just pulling itself up. It usually has to think for a second. This is just an older program, but it's a GUI interface to kind of show you the front end of what's going on. And we'll just kind of go in and play around. And the interesting thing is this isn't going to hurt anybody as far as security at all. Like, you literally, it's almost like key in a lock. So the code without the database is nothing. Okay? The database without the code is ones and zeros and flags and It doesn't even really know what to do. Okay. So one of the things that we do inside of Adilas that's kind of different than normal programming is normal programming. A lot of your programming is actually on the database level. What we do is we literally say, I need a container. I'll talk to you when I want you. And so the database is just a container. It's just a raw container. Oh, I need a file for this one. I'm gonna pack it in here however I want it to be done, and I'm gonna do this and this. And
that's increased your speed, then. That's why you are so huge, but you have instantaneous response.
The computer in the back end is doing instant connections, but it's just-in-time connections. Because guess what? Even if I'm a fast person, and as fast as I can click and say I'm interacting and doing this, and I hit submit, and I go to another page and I want to do something, well, guess what? You just threw a piece, and in computer time, I can touch that, throw it back, and you think that you're working as fast as you can, but it's going like this. Okay, no problem. Okay, I know where you're at. No problem. It's literally doing that, but if you start spreading that out to thousands and thousands, the server's still just kind of going like this. It's just moving its hands all around, and it can still play and have fun and do whatever. So
it's still happy, huh?
Yeah, it's very happy. So this is kind of the database in general. Got your A's and B's, and maybe I'll put it on this side over here so you can kind of get an idea. So it's basically going through and it's kind of doing its own little feelings for it, kind of like, what's going on and how are things going. But each little table has fields and data types and all this kind of stuff. One of the things that we do it in order to make the umbrella and the world thing is every single table has corporation ID numbers. So I know what your world is. If I'm using a shared table, I can say, what's your world? Oh, your world number 12. In your mind, you're MH5, but maybe in the...
So the data theoretically is mixed except your ID is...
We have a couple tables that are corporation specific, ones that we know that have just expanded. We're like, whoa, that's expanding way fast. I got to put that on its own table because I don't want it to just go...
The smaller ones.
Okay, anything that's smaller, like how many vendors is a company going to have max?
No, I mean not,
100, 300 if they're pretty big. Okay, so you're like, okay, 300, no problem. I can chew that up in a heartbeat. I'm going to put the corp ID there, and then it's going to help me know what else is going on. But like, if you're like, okay, how many users are your company going to have? 2, 5, 50, no problem. Okay, so basically we just like, and you know what that allows us to do is if I have a global user ID number, I can then say this user ID was playing in this corporation, world number 12. Oh, this same user was actually playing in corp number 350. Oh, the same user was actually in corp number 2.
Well, technically that's what we're doing because we're playing in Logan.
Correct.
And I'm turning around and
playing
in
the
MH1.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we mix and blend a bunch of things, but some of your pieces, like some of them have thousands and thousands of records, and some of them are really teeny. Just depending on which piece of the puzzle you're trying to work. Here's the customer queue. This is an old one, once again, but it has 218,000 records in it. So how many people come in and actually get checked in, like in a line, in the queue, or whatever? Just like customers and departments. Everything is named. It's not cryptic at all. Like even the names, the actual values of it. So say, for instance, you wanted to go into customers or something like that. You would come down and you would find customers, and you'd click on it, and it basically says, okay, we have the customer ID, the corp ID. This is where you type to the world. First name, last name, business, address, city, state, zip. These are all our values, like what we're trying to allow for the different pieces of the puzzle. Home phone, cell phone terms, discount, web.
Very friendly for your sanity, right?
Oh, I hope so, because I have to use this constantly. And so it's, here's birth dates and this and that. So here's, for instance, watch a deposit table. This is how simple a deposit table is. I need the deposit ID, a bank ID, notes, who reconciled it, who verified it, was there extra special thing? Like, it's very simple, very, very simple. Elements of time, this is our calendaring application. It starts coming into...
so complicated, it makes my head spin.
What's that?
It's simple, and I see and I understand it, but there are so many elements that makes my head spin.
There are a ton of pieces that get connected. Like
when you said you about walked away because you were frustrated.
Okay, so
that would have been a huge loss because you've got the big picture.
Yeah, correct. I've actually tried to walk away from this thing multiple times. back in probably 2005. Okay, and if you're okay, I'll just kind of tell you because it's fun. But I was building a project that was dealing with snowboarding. So instead of data and coding and all this kind of stuff, it was multimedia and fun and interactive and teaching something that I had a passion about. And so I actually started my own company and was headed in this direction. I got an SBA loan, started funding the thing. I actually created it clear to the commercial level. And at that time, I was like, okay, I'm going to start going to sell it. I'm going to do this and this and this. And we had built a ton of these pieces inside of Atlas. At that time, it was called Morningstar. And so we basically just kind of started, I was just doing contracting work for them. Okay, I wasn't even working full-time for them. They'd be like, hey, we need to add a floor plan application. Okay, here you go. Leave me alone. I'm over here.
Right.
Leave me alone. So kind of fun. Steve kept this ball going, okay? And so he started growing. He had a single world that we had built, and all of a sudden he's like, we're going to expand into Texas. We need a whole other world. And so we were actually duplicating full systems. Instead of having one umbrella that had multiple worlds, it was world, world. That's the end of the story, okay? So what was happening is every single one that we ended up going out to about 4 deep on individual applications. And I was like, oh man, it's so hard to do an update. Because if I do one change, I have to test it here, I have to test it here, I have to test it here, I have to test it here. And each one had slightly different coding. And what that ended up doing is it kind of created this little thing called setting. Because all of a sudden we're like, you know what, why don't we stack it, say a setting, and then it automatically knows how to play, so I don't have to
Do that.
test and test and test and test and test and upload new files here and upload new files here. It was kind of a pain. And so we got to a certain point doing that, and in the meantime, I'm building my own little piece of the puzzle, and then eventually the loan came due, and I hadn't gotten to the point where I was able to sell it yet, and so Steve hired another person to work in the computer department, and the other person was coming in fairly raw. Like he had some computer skills, but he didn't know like where we were going or anything, and I was literally trying to look for the door. And so Steve wrapped me back in, and he's like, please, can you just stay till we get this guy online? And at the same point, he's still trying to grow and expand and do all this kind of stuff. And so it was just getting harder and harder and harder to manage all of this. And I was like, you know what you really need to do? You really need to just say, forget it with all the individual pieces. Pull back, build a big one, and so you know that you can expand it. You can go like this. We were still dealing with just his businesses. It wasn't even open to any other sources or anything. And so we built. I hope you're okay with this. I'm just kind of sharing this little story, but this is kind of what happens. We built it, built it, built it. We basically pulled back, and so we were proposing this, and I was trying to. So Steve started thinking kind of more globally, if you will, kind of wow. I'll bet you we could do this, or if we do that, I could maybe even expand to this. In the meantime, I'm over here just doing my own little snowboarding thing. So I was literally trying to be like, okay, here, I'll help for a little bit. I got pulled back in, and as we started helping this other computer guy, Steve actually organized little meetings. We had a teeny little house, and we'd have a little meeting with the three of us, and Steve would be like, okay, so here's what happens. Imagine if you have something and it's trying to come up this way, and then you're trying to do this, like very visual as far as his hands and small graphics and drawings. We have all of these old drawings, like just at our house on file, like just folders and folders and folders of these little concept things, okay? So we draw these little things, and oh, I can see that. And I'd be like, well, if you want to do that in a database, you have to do this, 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 this. Oh, good idea. Like, it just kept opening doors and doors and doors and doors and doors. And in the meantime, we were helping this other computer guy kind of come up to speed. Within a year, he had some family problems and actually had to bail out and do some other stuff. But at that time, I had the note that was due for my other business, and I needed to make a decision. Do I follow my business and kind of try to push it? It's a commercial product. It's currently sitting in my garage. But I physically made the decision. I said, you know what? I can see your vision now. Because Steve had kind of been like, look where we can take this if we really do build with the umbrella / umbrella universe world type level. And I was like, wow, I can see that. So I physically made a decision. And so it kind of hurt some of my pride and some of that stuff. But I've had a lot of fun. Even this last year, I gave a bunch of that little snowboarding stuff away, And it's been really fun to kind of actually give it away and get people to have it. It's thousands of hours just in that project alone.
Isn't that amazing?
So, but anyway, the long story short, Steve kind of wrapped it back in and kind of kept presenting these ideas and like, what if we actually kind of did it like this? Imagine sales is kind of like where the thing starts and it just goes, almost explodes and you get vapors and then little droplets of water. Then what if we slowly kind of took these and we turned them into snow and then ice, and then eventually that becomes your accounting. Wow, that's creative, But that's actually time. In order for a droplet of water to go into slush and then snow or whatever it needs to go, and then into ice, that takes some time. So we had to start tracking some things. And Steve's like, let's track every penny in and every penny out. And like he had all of these little concepts. Matter of fact, there's actually a spot right here inside of Adilas. I'm going to just switch for just a second. If you go objects and data over time, these are some old ones way back from the vault. These are my drawings, not Steve's drawings, but this is from '09. And we wanted to track money in and money out, every single penny. Where did it go? Okay. We wanted to do water, slush to ice, We wanted to talk about one-to-many, how things are being categorized and eventually stored into individual folders and all this kind of stuff. We wanted to do a zipper where we basically said like this, operations, accounting, okay, where does it start? What happens next? What happens next? What happens next? We're probably not like there. Like, we're not all the way zipped up. We aren't. We're not all the way yet, but it's totally different compared to a normal chasm of operations versus accounting and no touchy, no cross. Maybe I'll throw some stuff across the board, okay? So we talked one-to-many. So this is like a server and different people contacting it, a laptop, a desktop, and this person has multiple windows and screens, and like this is a one-to-many, to-many, but it's still playing with the server. Like we had lots and lots of fun little concepts as far as like the main and the line items and the payments and like just little invoice pieces. And here's another one-to-many. Say you have, this is an invoice and it has line items and payments. This is where we kind of ended up with our cup analogy, okay? You can almost see it, like instead of doing stars and boxes and stuff like this, it's like, let's put a plate and let's start stacking little cups that like, where do these things connect to? And, oh, I have histories and I have payments and I have line items and I have multiple customers and I have photos and I have, like it has to have all of these hands, but each one is its own little table. So it kind of makes it fun. We talked about
I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
That conversation. That would have been pretty fun.
So this is a thing that's kind of interesting, but Shannon is actually going through and doing a thing that we're going to call the Developer's Notebook. We have another site. It's called Adilas University. It's kind of just it's a project right now, okay? It's definitely a working project. There's nothing really going on. I've got my brother editing videotapes from some of these training things. I've got my sister. She's actually going through notebooks. We have notebook after notebook after notebook. Every idea, all the bugs, all the fixes, all the brainstorming, all the everything. She's going through, scanning, typing it. We're going to put it on Adilas University. We're going to use Adilas to show these notebooks and stuff like that. So these are some of the fun things that we're doing. And so
those will be the things that you can get excited about as you work through
the muddle through the mud.
Yeah.
technical parts of it.
Anyway, it's just fun. We talked about roll calling and like even for training, we already wanted to kind of have this is back in '09, like we want basic and intermediate and advanced. If I were to say now, I'd say concept, basic, intermediate, advanced, tech, like clear to that level instead of just this little small little cone and linear with permissions and one-to-many, like these are tons of stuff that happened way back, just little brainstorming sessions and stuff.
But you've seen it come to fruition.
We have.
Many on there.
It's been really fun in that way, and so it's kind of fun. Anyway, did you have any other questions on the database stuff, or like here's the corp specific stuff? Okay, so PO and invoice line items. You can see how that's just corp specific. I just count that as one table because it's basic. Even though it's like hundreds and hundreds of tables, it's like each corporation has one table. So then you go past that and you have reasons and receipt history and receipt photos and recipes and relationships and get into time and all this kind of stuff like flex grid stuff and like it's not really tons and tons of here's your units of measurement. I'll bet you anything. Watch this. Let's go to SQL. We'll go to units. Oh, you know, this is local. It's not going to have the one that we did yesterday. You'd actually have to go onto a live database. But I was going to actually pull us into.
And it's, I mean, it's followable. I can't even imagine being that other computer person and trying to step in, though, and make sense.
This was years ago, but I mean, it's still just like, it was a little bit overwhelming and stuff. And so what we're trying to do is that we have some code that I think is worth a lot of money, but I'll tell you what is worth even more money is these concepts that we're doing. Any business that actually can learn how to apply universe, world, location, group, object, data, and learn it over time, that is more powerful than any piece of code that we actually have. And if we can share that and say, hey, you don't have to do exactly what we do, but check this out. We pioneered a bunch of roads, and if you can use this, look at where you can go and look where you can take it. We're going to give away those concepts for free. That's millions and millions and millions of dollars worth in those concepts. And what we're trying to do, this is kind of our agenda, is we're trying to set ourselves up as kind of a thought leader in this industry as far as like how this works and how it goes. And some of our code is actually just like, I know this can work, and let me show you. Let me show you how it can work. And they may not like it, but we're like, what if we actually did an API, which is that application programming interface, where we're like, here's the Adilas engine, and we've already pioneered tons of this stuff. Why don't you wrap it however you want so it's super simple so that somebody just said, click, click, and they're done versus like,
everything in the background.
Yep, everything's in the background, and if anybody wanted to, all they have to do is go right here inside of Atlas, and they go like this, chooser. Okay, say they're working in the super ultra simple interface right here. Very simple. Let's do a counter sale. Like we did. How many counter sales have we done in this class? 50 million. Here's that simple little button right on your homepage. It's the only one that you're used to using it, okay? We can simplify these interfaces and skip all these steps. We have thousands of pages, but if we allow people to consume it, then all of a sudden we can customize an interface and make it super, super simple.
Yeah.
Super simple.
And people like simple.
They do.
And that's the truth and reality of life. They like simple. They like a really short learning curve nowadays.
Yep. Anyway, that's where some of the things that we're going to do, but at the same point, we can say, where do you want to bounce? That was super simple, but guess what? I can go to my classic homepage, and I can do the exact same thing. It just happens to be a link. Okay? Boom. Start the cart. I'm already in the view cart. That was the exact same piece. Okay? See, it's view cart,
Well, then
and
your
I'm ready.
interface is not difficult by any means. Once you get used to it, it all makes sense. It's just the getting used to part. The interesting part is, unlike any other software I use, you are willing to listen to people and say, can you do this, can you do this? Call Adobe and ask them to call Word and see if they'll maybe use a 12-point font instead of a 11-point font because publishers want 12-point font. Why did you go 11? And their answer is, that's the new standard. And I said to the tag, that's the new standard? I said, who set the standard? Microsoft? I said, Microsoft just went against every publication manual that's been around for 200 years. I said, we have an aging population. We don't read 11 point like we read. I mean, that's such a simple thing, but those silly conversations you have with people who believe, yeah, you guys are setting the stage and you're not dictating the stage.
Where we're hoping to take it, Madeline, is literally like out of the box. We haven't even talked. We have over 100 permissions. You've seen that list of permissions. Have you seen corp-wide settings? Have you seen anything that you can do with corp-wide settings? You can change the names and numbers. Can I take you there really quick? Watch this. We're going to go home. We're going to click on settings, okay? And I'm going to click, look at this. Here's my look and feel panel. Here's all of my information on my corporation, my logo training. What do you want it to look like? Okay, we'll let you change that. That's kind of look and feel.
Oh yeah, because you had talked about this, but we hadn't actually.
So these are hexadecimal numbers right here that actually come off like a.
Color picture.
Yeah, it's just a general little. Basically, what it does is it does RGB.
Well, right. Lets me choose
And then it kind of.
RGB colors.
It's just basic stuff.
But you can match somebody's.
Correct. So what we do in the background is we'll upload logos for people and we'll make it look whatever you want it to. So you can technically, we're very, very standardized colors right here. I'm going to come back to some settings, but watch this. Say I switch to a different company. I'm going to clear my card. I was just playing. And we'll switch again. And some of these, I don't have access to actually go in and show you data, but I can at least show you like a look and feel. This is orange, kind of cool. If you get an error message, it's going to be a light color orange. You're matching logos. You're matching all this kind of stuff. But what it does is it brands it. Hey, this is 5280 imports that's doing this and this and this. Okay. Just as an example as well, say you jumped into, here's an old trailer company. They like yellow. Okay. Like, it doesn't matter, but basically you can see this. If they have an error message, it's probably red if I remember right. Just kind of giving you an idea.
That's good. That gives them.
It's their identity. It's their kind of identity. Say you wanted to jump into another little trailer dealership. This one's blue. You know, like just kind of depends. Like I just want to show you that there's tons and tons of different things. Say you jumped into one. This one's gray. This one does just they sell trailers and campers and they run lots of stuff under their elements of time and like actually dictating like who has what for their you haven't even seen elements of time, but this is their running stuff like, hey, so-and-so's going to come in here, and then they're going to drop it off here, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, they're just running elements of time stuff. But, we're going to switch here. Here's one that's kind of fun. This one's kind of a fun color. We haven't even talked, this one was actually in Belize, so this was foreign, but they have kind of a nice blue, almost oceany type feel.
That.
And here's kind of some fun stuff that's kind of fun. Just watch this. So what they did is, instead of stock units, you haven't even seen stock units. They got tons of photos, but guess what their stock units are? Bedrooms, bathrooms, apartments, beachside. Like, this is literally this is what some of their stuff is. This is the beachfront, and that's the little beach house that they do, and like, they're doing a bunch of different little things, but this is in Belize, and like, some people never see any of these kind of stuff. So say you come in here to the, here's a foundation slab that they were actually building some stuff to, using it and actually documenting what was going on as was happening. And I'm going to switch modes in the same stock number. So currently we're at stock number 17. If I switch modes to this thing, what happens is look all this work that they was actually done to this foundation, and they literally documented it into the level of, if I wanted to say, what was this $53 for? It was for this. I mean, clear down the PVC pipes and elbows and et cetera, et cetera. Here's my $53, but it was assigned to a stock number instead of a customer. This is an invoice. Okay, this is internal invoicing. You haven't even seen any of this stuff, Madeline. So this is some of the different pieces that are
Personalization.
how do you want to play? How do you want to play? But anyway, I was just kind of showing you some look and feel there.